Welcome to Show Up 365. I want to give you just a quick overview of what Show Up 365 is all about in your recovery, and why I've even put it in here up front is that you get the idea of why I'm calling it Show Up 365 is that your recovery and what we're doing here and what I'm challenging you to do throughout this entire year is that you're learning to become a show up person. And so as I break down all the components of what I'm going to teach you throughout the upcoming months, and what I'll be challenging you over and over and over to do on a consistent basis, if you just do a little bit every day, then what this is about, how it all fits into what I'm trying to promote here is a person who's willing to show up at the show up place and be vulnerable with his showing up or her showing up and being authentic as a person as unique as you are. And so let's take a look at the overall total program of what I'm promoting here and why I Show Up 365. First of all, what I want you to see is the bottom line. Your addiction, whatever it is driven by shame, and shame causes you to run to the bushes, and you hide. Now, you can be in a group, you can be in a crowd, you can be at work, you could be a professional person, you could be a TV personality or a movie actor, and still, the whole world know you, at least on the surface, but you've never come out of the bushes, you've never come out and been authentically who you are. And by not doing that, this is the whole drive here, is that coming to the show up place in life with anybody that's willing to show up with you, is that then you have two unique individuals who are showing up in a relationship and experiencing intimacy, being known and knowing someone and being accepted as that person, as you are. Now, does that mean you're perfect? No, I'm not even promoting anywhere near that. But bottom line, your recovery, in my perspective, is to get you here, to the show-up place in your recovery, and out of the bushes. For your spouse, for your children, for those people, the significant people in your life, is that you can show up and have a vulnerable, transparent relationship with. That's where I'm going with this recovery. Not just stopping the behavior, but getting here. So let's break this down real quick, because see, bottom line, in any relationship that you have, your primary responsibility is yours is 100% of coming out of the bushes and showing up the showing place. But in any relationship, you only have 50% of the responsibility. You can't make a relationship by yourself. You can't make a marriage if your spouse is not willing to show up at the show up place. You can't make a relationship happen with your children if you're not showing up. Oftentimes as adults, we finally wake up and realize that our children are growing up and we want a relationship with them, and they don't want one with us. Well, because they've grown all their entire life with you over in the bushes, whether it's work or driven by shame, whatever behaviors you were doing or addictions you had, is that you stayed over here, they never experienced you. And then all of a sudden you're about to lose them and you want them to show up, they're going to say, yeah. So bottom line, you've got to get to here and invite. Generally, people will respond to that for the most part and will show up too. But unless you're there at the show up place, then you have no idea that nobody else was there. And I think that's the baffling thing. And before I get too far in here, I just want you to realize that over 25 plus years of doing this work, it amazes me that how the denial of the co-addict or the person who's in a relationship with an addict wakes up one day and realizing that I didn't know he or she was over in the bushes. I didn't know they weren't showing up. I didn't know that I wasn't married to the person I thought I was married to, and I didn't have the marriage I thought I had. A good possibility in that whole deal is that you were never at the show-up place. Because it's my contention that if we're at the show-up place, then we know somebody else is not there. The reason why I spent so many years of my life not knowing that somebody else was not showing up is because I didn't know where the show-up place was. I had not done my work to get there. So this is what I'm challenging you to do. Bottom line, we're moving you towards intimacy. I am challenging you to pursue what you created to do all along, and that's to be in relationship, not only with your higher power, but with other people in your life. Now let's look at this as I break this down. First of all, we're talking about the show-up place. Bottom line, it's a place where that's where we're intended to be. In the beginning, when the story goes around the Garden of Eden, that God just came into the garden in the evenings and walked with Adam and then with Eve too, and showed up with them. He wanted them just to kind of show up with them. to be there, to walk in the cool of the evening, to talk, to fellowship, and to relate. Inviting to show up. That's where originally we were all created and what it was all about. And so all relationships have certain parameters that define the relationship. They also have a dividing line between where I stop and you begin. And healthy relationships know that space. There's not a real line there. It's just an imaginary line. It's something that I know that it's where I stop and I don't cross. It's not my responsibility what goes on the other side. That's the other side of the street. That's the other side of the fence. Whatever term you want to call that, that's not my job. I can only come here and invite my spouse, invite my son, or invite my friends to show up, or my children, and just say, I invite you to show up at a show up place. Now, they will or they won't. I can't control that because that takes place on the other side of the show up place. So there's a defining factor that comes in here, whether it's a parent-child relationship, a husband and wife relationship, a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, or whether it's a friend relationship, a professional relationship. All kinds of relationships defined this way. My job in my life is to be, this is what I think I'm meant to be. This is my outcome, desired outcome in life, is to be an authentic person willing to live vulnerably, because this is very vulnerable. There's no promises here. There is no guarantees anybody's going to show up or they're going to like me when they do. I got to take that risk. But that's where I'm to join. Now, how do I get there? Well, if I've spent a lot of my life over in the bushes, shame has driven me here. And shame has a message that there's something wrong with me. I'm broken in inherent some way that I don't belong here. If anybody knew me, they wouldn't like me. If anybody really knew who I was, they wouldn't love me because I'm not lovable or I'm not likable. Whatever those messages are over here, keeps me hiding over here. Shame drives addiction. Any kind of compulsive behavior that gets me off into the weeds and I'm not there at any show-up place with anybody. I don't care what I try to tell myself. Oh, I can keep my work and compulsively work at it, or my drinking, or my drugs, or my sexual acting out, or whatever else it is, that I can do this. And if nobody else knows about it, then I can still be here. You can't be both places at the same time. If you're in your shame place and you're acting out, you're over here in the weeds. You've got to, your recovery is coming from there to here. And that's where we're going to talk about next is, bottom line, your recovery plan, all the tools we give you in recovery in this whole teaching process is to get you from out of the bushes to the show-up place, not just to stop a behavior. So all the plans, going to groups, going to meetings, getting a sponsor, doing your therapy, making the calls, all the tools for your recovery are right here in this path. That's your journey from the bushes to the show-up place. Then there is boundaries. You've got to have boundaries in your life that keeps you in track. I know that when I make a trip, I oftentimes travel to Nashville, Tennessee. I do a lot of conferences over there. And so I get on the road here in Asheville and I drive Interstate 40 right on through Knoxville on to Nashville. It's a 5-hour drive or thereabouts, depending on how I'm driving. Now, bottom line, it doesn't matter how long I drive from here to Nashville. I could get 4 hours down the road and says, shoot, I'm almost there. I don't have to worry about the ditches anymore. I don't have to hold on this. I don't have to keep it on the road. Well, do you think I'm going to make it? There's an interesting fact. It doesn't matter how far I've traveled along this way, those ditches are still always the same distance from where I am on the road. So I've got to keep boundaries in my life that says, I don't go here. I don't do this. I don't read that. I don't watch this. I limit myself here. I don't ever do those kinds of things. Because if I do those things, I'm going to end up in the ditches. I won't get here. My goal is to get here. And so there are certain things that I don't do. If I want to get to Nashville intact, whole, all pieces together, then I can't go into the ditches. Traveling down the road at 70 miles an hour, I don't care how big a vehicle you get. If you get off the road, life gets real hard. It gets difficult. The likelihood of me making it all the way to Nashville in the median is slim to none. You can't live life outside of here and make it to the show-up place. So you've got to have your boundaries. We'll cover all of that. Then the next thing is that all relationships have boundaries. Now, if you'll notice, I put dotted lines. Now, that means it's semi-permeable. It means that, that good stuff can come in and bad stuff stays out. Bottom line is like, And these are often defined by the relationship themselves and also the two individuals that come here to the show up place. In other words, I've got certain things that I need to feel safe so that I can be vulnerable if I show up here. If you come into the show up place and you start shaming me, no thank you, you're not welcome. So all relationships need boundaries. It may be that I will not continue to live with you if you do not get into recovery. I will not continue a relationship with you if you continue your addiction. I love you, I don't like your addiction. I'm done. Or it may be that I won't share my spouse with anybody else out there in the universe. I mean, you've got to have certain bottom lines for these things to work. But what makes this happen? It may be that I'm not willing to show up with you if you're going to shame me. I'm not going to show up if you're going to judge me. You know, there's research that shows that, you know, several things that really expound shame and drives this kind of behavior back to the bushes is that when there is secrets, when there is silence, when there's judgment. And those are things that should be, says, okay, none of those things will be here. We will not experience silence. I will not keep secrets. And I will not judge here. Now that makes it a lot safer for me to deal with my shame and come out of the bushes and come to the show up place. You'll have to work out. We'll talk about those kind of relationship boundaries later. I just want to give you an overall picture. Then you come back to the whole thing, is that if both individuals in your relationship are working recovery, maintaining their own boundaries, working to come to the show up place, and owning 50% of their stuff and 100% of their story, I'm telling you, couples will find relationship. They will find intimacy. They will experience vulnerability, and they will experience a life of reduced shame. Will it all be gone totally? I don't know that. I haven't gotten there yet myself, so I don't know. But I do know this. I've learned through my recovery process shame resilience. I've learned that I can have safe community here of other individuals that I can share about my shame triggers, and I can dispel that by bringing it into the light. I know them, and I can name them. And I got a community that understands that. Do you? This is what this is all about. Showing up 365 days with this program, with other people in your community, doing the work you need to do. You will be a show-up person, living authentic in an intimate relationship with others, the way you were created to be and to do. Thank you.